Welcome to a video on the culture mechanic of Rome Taught to War. This is a feature that many people understand, but also misunderstand and make mistakes on. I decided to spend many hours doing cultural trial and error tests, trying different settlements with different buildings from different factions, and also double checking my results. Here is what I found. Wow, I miss going outside. So, here is a basic explanation of culture in Rome Taught to War. Each faction has a set culture: Roman, Barbarian, Greek, Egyptian, and Eastern. When you conquer a province of another culture, you get a cultural penalty that you will usually see start at minus 50%, which is a lot of public order. Over time in your campaign, you will convert the culture over into your culture, and so that negative modifier will tick down. This is done by either A, building buildings of your culture to counter the presence of foreign culture, or B, through destroying the buildings of other cultures. It's sort of like seeing the old buildings from the past culture makes people nostalgic for that, and so they end up hating anything new that you add. Kind of like those losers who sit around all day, spending half of their time playing Rome Taught to War, and the other half of their time hating the newer titles. God, I hate Rome 2. First off, let's get this out of the way with. One common misconception is that different buildings hold different weights. For example, replacing the temple helps switch the culture more than replacing a barracks would. That is not true, except with the main governor's building. All other buildings are equal in value. Okay, so you have minus 50% public order penalty when you take a settlement. Now, changing the culture of the governor building to your own, also known as upgrading the settlement, will instantly knock off 25% of the public order penalties, and will therefore cap the issue at minus 20% public order. Never will you get more than minus 25% public order if the governor building is of your culture. If it is not at your culture, it is capped at a minus 50% penalty. So always try and convert that governor's building once you get the chance to. It's a lot of public order. As for the other 25%, that's where it becomes an issue. This here is calculated by the amount of foreign buildings that are present compared to the amount of your buildings that are present. Here is the table that I made, and essentially this is all you need to know. The x-axis shows how many buildings are present of your culture, the y-axis shows how many foreign buildings are present. The numbers in between shows the public order penalty you will receive. As you can see, by destroying or replacing the foreign buildings in a settlement lowers the public order penalty, and also, as already said, building your own cultural buildings will also decrease the penalty as the cultural gap begins to balance out. By the way, the governor's centre does not count as a building in this list. This is just for everything else: military buildings, temples, walls, farms, roads, but no government centres. Or governor's palace, or imperial palace, whatever it's known as. I'll give you one quick example. If the Scipii conquer Carthage and switch the governor building, let's say there's 5 Carthaginian buildings in there and 2 Roman ones, then you can see by this table you will receive a 15% public order penalty. If you were to build one more building of your culture or destroy a Carthaginian one, then you will knock the penalty down to 10%. However, if you did both, it will still be on 10% penalty, as you can see by the table. And don't forget to end turn. The impact is not instant, you always need to end turn. Now let us compare it to the settlement culture penalty, if you were to not convert the governor building. As you can see, your efforts to convert the culture seem to be in vain. mostly. Other buildings have very little effect, so the main government centre is of course the most important to convert by far. Another misconception is that damaged buildings do not count as part of that culture, and so provide no change of the cultural penalty. That is not true. Damaged or not, it does not affect the game culture, although it may have done on an older patch. However, this test was done for the Julii. My test with Carthage seemed to have similar results, but a couple of figures were different. As you can see with coordinates 0, 6 on both graphs, the numbers are slightly different. I believe all factions will be somewhere around these figures, but some factions interacting with other cultures may be 5% off at times, for reasons that I cannot explain. But still, it's not by much. A couple of side notes. This is for the most updated version of the game on Steam. It may be different on disc or older versions. Also, I tested it on hard and very hard difficulty. The results seemed the same, but there is a chance they may be different on other difficulties. The pyramids removes the cultural penalty from the presence of Egyptian cultural buildings and counts them as your own culture. However, in the expansions like Barbarian Invasion or Alexander Total War, there is no Egyptian culture at all, so yeah, it's a pointless wonder. But in Rome Total War it does help with the Egyptian cultural presence. And it does not seem to matter if they are several cultures. Let's say you play as Rome, 2 Roman buildings, 2 Eastern buildings and 2 Greek buildings are in a settlement. It calculates that as 2 of yours and 4 foreign. Last but not least, is there an equation? Is there a pattern? Sadly none that I could find. There seems to be no effect when you get to the point where your cultural buildings outnumber theirs. There's no equation, there's no average number, there's nothing in the files that help that I could find, there's nothing that I can see. Maybe one of you will find a pattern, I don't know. Let me know if you do. But this is as far and in depth as I could go. Oh, and one last thing, if a settlement has no buildings at all, for example, Segesta when you take it turn 1 as the Julii, it will provide a 50% culture penalty until you build something else. And yes, that is everything. This is an interesting feature and one many players often overlook. It's amazing how a culture conversion mechanic existed all the way back then, despite the idea being credited to have only come in with Rome 2 Total War. In Rome 1, it's just done differently and kind of hidden, with no real existing explanation online. This, I believe, is the most detailed online source on this that you can find. Overall, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am disappointed I could not find a specific equation or pattern, but it took up far too much time as it is, and I don't see myself getting any further with it. Subscribe for more, share with anyone who still plays Rome Total War, like if you enjoyed. Goodbye.